Your first days in a new job are a bit like going to a new school. There are new people to meet, new places to find, and rules to learn. The challenges are even tougher when your new job is in the healthcare, manufacturing, and pharmaceutical industry. Every industry has its rules and regulations to ensure that its products are as perfect as possible. But in the healthcare industry, ensuring product quality dominates everything. The reason is, of course, that in your new work, the product you're involved with affects directly the well-being of someone else. The rules and procedures that are outlined in this short video didn't emerge fully formed from the mind of some health guru. They've been developed over many years and are based on sometimes bitter experience. Mistakes have been made in the past which have led to patients being poisoned and even killed by the very medicines they'd expected would cure them. Many of the problems of the past have been caused by contamination from people. Much of what you'll learn here and throughout your continuing training will be concerned with protecting the product from people, you and your co-workers. It's vitally important that you do nothing that'll compromise that protection. The guiding rule is, if you're not sure, ask. If there's no one to ask, don't do it. There may be things in this video that you will forget, but that should not be one of them. If you're not sure, ask. As far as the user, the patient, is concerned, the manufacturer of healthcare products must always be perfect, and the system, or rules, by which this is achieved is called Good Manufacturing Practice, GMP for short. GMP is a set of guiding principles, and in some places this is recognized by calling it Current Good Manufacturing Practice, or cGMP. And the first thing that anyone new notices in a plant operating to cGMP is the standard of housekeeping, the cleanliness and tidiness of the factory. Over the coming weeks and months, you'll be trained in many aspects of cGMP, and this video isn't going to burden you with a comprehensive description of cGMP in all its complexity. It's designed to give you the grounding to move on, with confidence, to the next stage of your training. The official definition of cGMP is that part of the quality assurance system which ensures that products are manufactured consistently to a quality fit for their intended use. The key words here are quality and fit for their intended use. When talking of the healthcare industry, the intended use is most often to treat a sick person, to cure a disease, to alleviate pain, to deliver medication, to take blood, or one of a whole range of activities which are intended to do good, but which, if things go wrong, can do irreparable harm. The quality of these products, then, is absolutely crucial. It's essential that when the product is used, it does what it was intended to do and does not cause harm to a patient already weakened by illness or injury. It's a very responsible job to work in healthcare manufacturing, and you're probably asking yourself how that level of quality can be achieved. The answer is both simple and complicated. Put simply, you merely have to observe the rules of good manufacturing practice. The complicated part, as you'll have guessed, is that there are quite a lot of rules to remember. Great strides have been made in safety in the healthcare manufacturing industry, and that's compared to only 20 or 30 years ago. Factories are constructed from better materials. Better equipment has improved product containment and the prevention of contamination of one product or material by another, while better filtration of the air and control of the movement of dust and other contaminants have improved our ability to capture particles and microorganisms before they can reach the product and do any harm. As you'll see, some of this control is achieved by using elaborate workwear, which effectively protects the product from the people working on it. Documentation, the paperwork or computer programs that control and record each batch of product, have also been made more user-friendly and more precise. Some of these improvements have come about as a result of government regulation, but they all fall within the general description of current good manufacturing practice. However, you don't have to learn everything at once. Your training is a continuous program of improvement. But in the meantime, remember, the basic rule is, if you don't know, ask, and if you can't ask, don't do it. Following the procedures of cGMP at every stage of a product's manufacture ensures that it's of the correct quality when it reaches the patient. The question to ask yourself as you work with these products is, would I be happy for this to be given to a member of my family? There must never be any doubt in your mind in answer to that question. If there is, don't keep it to yourself. Tell your supervisor about it. The basic and common sense principles of cGMP include that the product must be in a properly sealed and intact container, that the container must be the right one for that product, that it must carry a label which displays all the correct information about the product, that the product must be of the required quality and strength and free from contamination and deterioration, and above all, it must be the right product. To allow a contaminated product to escape would be bad enough, but to allow one product to masquerade as another is disastrous. All these checks and precautions during manufacture are necessary. Only a small proportion of each batch will be retained for testing because it's impossible to test the whole batch, so each sample has to be representative of the whole. Of course, testing can't improve product quality. It can only report whether the sample is good or bad. Quality has to be built into every process from start to finish. That's what good manufacturing practice is all about. cGMP applies from the moment raw materials enter the factory, through their storage and collection, through every manufacturing process, to labeling, to packaging, and the eventual warehousing and dispatch of the finished product. This level of quality can't be achieved without rigorous controls, both to the process and the people who work with it. The strictness of the rules may seem excessive to someone just starting in the industry, and we may seem to be repeating this quite a lot. However, it's absolutely vital that everyone obeys the rules from their very first day at work. Doing something the wrong way may affect other people's work as well as your own, and until you're fully familiar with all the ins and outs of your work, take extra care. And remember to ask and to keep on asking until each task is perfectly clear to you. To ensure that everyone knows what to do and how to do it, there are a number of standard written instructions, usually called Standard Operating Procedures, or SOPs for short. Each of them is the subject for detailed and specific training. In the meantime, we'll examine the main ones in general terms only. Everything in the production process, raw materials, packaging, and the product itself is subject to a detailed specification. The specification for each one of the raw materials, for instance, describes exactly what the material is, what it contains, and how pure it should be. The specification for packaging will describe its size, shape, and what it's made from, whether plastic, glass, paper, or card. And the specification for the product will describe exactly how all these elements go together to create the finished item. Each step in putting these elements together, actually to manufacture the product, are detailed on a batch manufacturing record. This may be called something else, but essentially it's a detailed history of the manufacture of each individual batch of a product. Similarly, all the operations in the packaging process are detailed in a packing record, instruction, or sheet. Operations which are not directly related to the production process are generally governed by general standard operating procedures, which cover the whole range of ancillary and support procedures. These are things like cleaning, maintenance, and many of the activities relating to the care and use of machinery and other equipment. But, as you'll realize, nothing happens in isolation, and a batch manufacturing record may well cross-refer to a standard operating procedure. An example could be a special cleaning procedure, which is called for before a specific manufacturing operation can take place. As their names imply, batch manufacturing and packing records prescribe not only what must be done, but record what actually has been done. Naturally, where quality is so important and mistakes so dangerous, it's essential that records are completed properly and accurately. They should be completed at the time of the event, never later on, when it might seem more convenient. For example, when you check something, you must sign the record to show exactly what you've checked. However, if there's something you don't agree with or aren't happy about, don't sign the record. If you sign for someone else's error, it's not only your head on the block, but dependent on the product, someone could die, yes, die as a result. We all make mistakes, so if you do make a mistake, it's important to admit it and to make sure that the right people are told. There's no question of disciplinary action being taken for an honest mistake, freely and promptly admitted, but it's your responsibility if your mistake feeds through into the production process. Remember, it could be that someone's life is at stake. However, because the consequences can be so serious, the penalties for attempting to deny or to hide an error are likely to be severe. If the mistake is a written one, on a form or record, the way to deal with it is to cross the error through once and once only before entering the correct data. The new entry should then be signed and dated. As with all form filling and record keeping, the corrections should be made at the time, not later. Of course, this is even more important if the information is complicated, such as logging readings from instruments. Never, never use correction fluids like liquid paper, or indeed anything else that'll obliterate the original entry. It's essential that anyone reading the form or record should be able to see both the mistake and the correction. Remember, if you're in any doubt, ask. It's an unpleasant fact of life that we human beings are the biggest source of contamination in the healthcare industry. It's for that reason that some of the strictest rules governing how you work are actually concerned with things that, in almost any other job, you'd consider to be nobody's business but your own. In this industry, your personal habits are of more than simply social interest. It's not just a question of whether you smell like a bouquet of prize blooms, or whether you could fell a charging rhinoceros simply by raising your arms. At issue are the things you bring to work with you, apart from your skills and enthusiasm. We humans all carry a great many microorganisms or germs in and on our bodies. You'll learn more about this during your training, but for now it's enough to know that when we're fit and well, these microorganisms do us no harm. But they can be devastating if they get into medicines, medical devices, eye drops, or even cosmetics. Such products must be protected from these organisms, many of which live and multiply on our skin, and we shed skin flakes into the atmosphere as particles each day by the million. Personal cleanliness, therefore, is essential in this environment. Skin, hair, and clothes should be kept scrupulously clean at all times, with particular care to be taken over the hands, including fingernails and cuticles. Most of the rules will be obvious to you, like always washing your hands after visiting the toilet or when returning from a break. Never touch the product or those parts of the machinery that come into contact with the product without wearing gloves. Gloves are, of course, an essential item of protective clothing that you'll be expected to wear when working close to the product. Protective clothing is a crucial line of defense for the product. It should always be worn according to the procedures you'll be taught. A less obvious rule, perhaps, is that you should always report any illness, infection, or wound as soon as you arrive for work, and this includes conditions such as sunburn. It may be necessary to reallocate you to a less sensitive area until you're fully fit once more. Food, drink, sweets, smoking, and personal medicines are only permitted in designated areas. They're banned from production areas. Let's just reinforce that. Other than in designated rest areas, you must never eat, drink, chew, or smoke. Always work carefully and tidily. Avoid creating dust and spillages. If you do have a mishap and spill something, it must be cleaned up immediately. As you work, move carefully. Don't rush. The faster you move, the more air you disturb, and the more any particles in the air have a chance to be swirled up and deposited on the product. Always follow instructions precisely, and if you're not sure that what you're about to do is right, don't do it until you've asked someone for advice. The application of cGMP, good manufacturing practice, is at first sight simply a question of obeying the rules. But it's more than slavishly following instructions. While it's essential that the rules are kept and instructions are carried out precisely, The application of cGMP is also about cultivating an attitude to work, an attitude to ensure that the quality of the product is of the very highest. Your role, now that you're working with cGMP, is to do everything you can to maintain that quality. This program has been your first brief insight into current good manufacturing practice. You'll learn a lot more about it in the coming weeks and months, but now you understand the special needs and responsibilities of this very exacting industry, and you can safely join the team.